thing about Zionism is that it started long before the State of Israel was created. If you look in the Hebrew scriptures, the word Zion and returning to Zion, which really refers essentially to Jerusalem, but it's also the Holy Land. And so the idea of Zion, of course, is deeply imprinted in Jewish theology and the Jewish belief system. So when it was formulated as a political movement by Theodor Herzl, it really represented the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, a national liberation of the Jewish people. And Herzl, even as he formulated what Zionism was going to mean, he even in his famous early books that he wrote on the subject, even said that one day when the Jews have realized and built their national home in Israel, they should help the peoples of Africa, because in his day, of course, there was, all the powers of Europe were colonizing Africa and taking the wealth of Africa back to their countries in Europe. And so even then, Herzl was sort of adding into Zionism the idea that it would be not only a blessing for the Jewish people, and the assumption was, of course, that it would be a blessing to all the inhabitants of the land, because he saw what actually has happened, that the love of the Jewish people for the land of Israel, turning a desert green, planting trees and looking after the land and loving the land, the way the Jews have, and which we see what Israel has managed to produce, would bring so many good things to the Arab inhabitants of the land that they would enthusiastically be partners with the Jewish people. He didn't anticipate, of course, that there would be the problems that Islam has with conquered territory, that once Islam has conquered territory, it can never revert to anybody else except Islam. And, everything that we've seen. And what's happened is that because of the opposition to Zionism, the enemies of the Jewish people, the enemies of Israel, have tried to make Zionism into a dirty word. That Zionism represents something terrible, that Zionism represents killing of Arabs and displacing them and denigrating them and making them second-class citizens, etc., etc. That's not the meaning of Zionism. And I'm happy that there are people who still to this day realize that Zionism is one of, and the Zionist movement and what it achieved is probably one of the greatest achievements in the history of mankind. How a decimated people, after 2,000 years of persecution, does not lose their identity, does not lose their beliefs, who prays every year to return to the land of Israel, actually manages to do that in small in number, facing incredible opposition and enemies, with minimal support from the democracies of the world, manages to create a state. It's nothing short of miraculous. And the achievements of Israel have been a blessing to the whole world, be it in agriculture, medicine, in science, wherever you look, you see the imprint of Israel, tiny Israel, on the rest of the world, and on to the benefit of mankind and to the benefit of the Arab populations living in Israel, who've done extremely well. As I say, they are many doctors and about 40% of all the pharmacists. They're head of medical departments in the universities. They've done extremely well. And even the Arabs in disputed territories like the West Bank and Gaza have a much lower infant mortality and a longer lifespan than Arabs living in other Arab countries. So that the benefit of Israel even extends to those people at war with Israel.